when America realized that we can use black people against themselves by giving them a new set of identities that allows them to disidentify from each other and identify more appropriately with us. But the point I'm making, you have to teach your son loyalty to his community. European Jews do it. Arabs do it, Chinese do it, we're the only people who feel anxious and ambivalent about telling our black boys that you better love and marry a black woman. And you know why we feel ambivalent? Because all of us have been conditioned by church envy to be colorblind. We're constantly told over and over again that it is wrong to be for yourself before you are for anyone else. And that's why Africans are dead last.
Blessed love viewers and subscribers who are going, open out and good, open out and great. Now my people, we're there again with something different, but not really different because we stand for Black Power movement, for the liberation of Africans. Now we're there again, I go check out this video with Dr. Umar Johnson discussing interracial marriages and how he's against it and how it is destroying us in general as Africans. So my people, we're gonna check out this and see what's going on. I'm a big fan of this brother here. Dr. Umar Johnson is a guy that really inspired me. So we're gonna check it out. And before we go into it, you know, it's a Black Power movement. So definitely drop a like and subscribe and share to a friend or a family so they can be a part of the movement. And now my people, let's take a walk and listen to what the great man, Dr. Umar Johnson, saying about interracial marriage. I know it's bad for the African community. Now, my people, let's go.
My father used to always instill in me that, you know, black is beautiful, or he'd be listening to James Brown say a lot, I'm black and I'm proud, or we'd be wearing the African medallions, the Malcolm X hats. Like, he would always make me watch Elijah Muhammad videos, Farrakhan videos. So I always thought black was the shit. But when it came to business, my father, I would always hear my father say, that's why you can't do business with no niggas. You know what I'm saying?
All the
time. Like, that's what would
said
want
that
my mentality when it came to doing business. But as far as like just black pride, I was always like proud to be
and
black.
that's the same thing. Yeah, you always had black pride, but when it came to business, it was like, I've heard it 1,000,001 times. That's why you can't do no job
absolutely.
with no niggas.
In other words,
That's
what?
quite
The
common.
pride is
It's quite
superficial. It's intellectual, but it's not internalized. For example, we had a lot of great scholars. Take my ancestor, Frederick Douglass, who knew their history and still marry white women. How did that happen? Now, yes, he was an old man. I give him that. His first wife, Anna Murray Douglas, a blue, black, purple chocolate woman with nappy hair to 50 years, who birthed all of his children. It was after she died that he married the white woman, but nonetheless, he married a white woman. Had Frederick Douglass not married that white woman, he would be undisputably the greatest black leader that ever walked on American soil. But because of that one mistake that he made. But the question again is, why did he do that?
Status
Because guess
that
what?
white woman was that caddy truck.
No, you know what I think it was?
What?
I think to some extent, and I can say this, he suffered some of the Barack Obama, W.E.B. Du Bois syndrome. And that is when you are mixed racial ancestry, which I don't even like to talk about because 300 years ago, there was no biracial or multiracial. If your father was white or your mother was white, you were still African. See, this is a modern thing, this whole multicultural movement. You never had that. Frederick Douglass was never called biracial. He was never called multiracial. He was called the N-word like the rest of us. There was no separation until the 20th century when America realized that we can use black people against themselves by giving them a new set of identities that allows them to disidentify from each other and identify more appropriately with us. But the point I'm making is the reason Frederick was able to do that is because deep down within himself, he may have still screamed for that validation.
Now, you said mistake. People are going to be mad at you by saying he made a mistake by marrying a white woman.
Sure.
Why do you say that's a mistake? Because shouldn't it be the man fell in love with who he fell in love with?
No, because marriage is a political decision. Who you marry tells me who you are. When you marry a woman, you don't just marry her. You marry her culture. You
Everything,
marry her
yeah.
community. You marry her people. You understand? So when a black man marries a white woman, he's making several clear points and messages he's sending out to his own people. Because there's no greater symbol of your loyalty to your struggle than to marry a sister who shares that struggle. Loving versus Virginia, and y'all need to see the movie. It just came out a few months ago. 1957, right about around that time, a white man named Loving from Virginia sued up to the Supreme Court for the right to marry a black woman. Up until then, several states still had anti-miscegenation law. After they struck down anti-miscegenation law across the country, 1957 or 67, somewhere within there, black men have married outside their race, Envy, more than the men of all other races in America put together as a percentage. How do you explain that? Is love purely blind? I disagree. Love is a function of your values and your priorities. I would argue the reason black men marry white women is because they wish they were white themselves. And having the white man's prize, his queen, is a psychological symbol to myself that I am equal to him. So you can't be in love with white women and not at the same time feel inferior to white males.
You know, it's interesting. I like what you said about it is a political
You can't
decision.
separate love from politics. Love is the most political thing, just like we try to separate religion.
So do you feel that way if you marry Puerto Rican or Latino?
It depends. Why does it depend?
Or Asian?
It depends on consciousness, because we know what? Cuba and Puerto Rico were the two largest slave ports up into the 1800s. The Garvey movement, the red, black, and green Garvey movement, of which I'm a member. Do you know Cuba was the most thoroughly organized Garvey island in the Caribbean? Yes. You had more chapters of the red, black, and green in Cuba and in Puerto Rico than in almost any other
But that's 'cause
island in the
Fidel
Caribbean.
Castro loved black and brown people.
No. Fidel Castro was a racist. Oh, yes. Oh, he was a socialist. And when he was challenged on the racism in Cuba, because you know the Caribbean has a very entrenched color hierarchy. When he was challenged on the racism in Cuba, you know what he said? We do have racism, and we will have to deal with it. But we have to address socialism and capitalism first. So he put the issues of black oppression in Cuba second to the socialist agenda. Remember, Fidel Castro was an Italian. He was not Cuban. Fidel Castro, it was an Italian. He was a white man. He was not a Cuban.
I didn't know that. So
Yes.
why did he help so many African countries?
Because it was politically necessary and expedient. Remember, you do a lot of things out of diplomacy. I may not like Envy, but guess what? I need the backing of Envy's community to protect me because America trying to take me out. So if I can get black America and black Africa on my side, I already got Russia. That insulates me even more when it comes to America trying to kill my image in the public eye.
Yeah, Cuba even allowed black people to go over there and get free, go to medical school for free.
Yes, a certain amount of them. Asada's over there. We appreciate that. Robert Williams went over there.
Minister Farrakhan's
We appreciate
daughters, I
that
believe,
without
before.
question. But
Yeah.
we're not talking about giving opportunity to individuals. We're talking about systematic opportunity. America gave me 6 degrees. America gave me a doctorate. I grew up with my father. I never been to jail, but I'm one black man. Systematically does America allow that? Castro did help a lot of our black revolutionaries, but that does not eliminate the fact that he was slow to move on the racism within his own cabinet. And it wasn't until he was challenged by those very same revolutionary Charlemagne that he began to address racism. Fidel Castro was an Italian, and I would argue a white supremacist nonetheless.
You're going to be in Brooklyn today.
Tomorrow night, Friday.
Today.
Yes, sir.
You
I'm
gonna
going to be in Brooklyn today.
You're going to be in Brooklyn today.
I'm in Brooklyn today. Come on out. Brown Memorial Baptist Church, 52 Gates Avenue. Doors open up at 4, power lecture at 6, book signing to follow.
And we're gonna get a bunch of emails and a bunch of tweets on the YouTube video and say, Dr. Umar, how Fidel ain't Italian and this and that. I'm like, look,
Fidel Castro is an Italian.
I'm not gonna I don't know. I got
That's
to research.
that's not even debatable.
That's what I'm saying.
He never claimed not to be.
But that's what people don't realize when brothers like you come. We're having a conversation.
Yes.
So I'm gonna we do the research later. Like that's what I think that's what any conversation should be about.
And the black socialists are going to be angry at my comment. Do you want to know why?
Why?
Because we have an intellectual civil war within the Pan-Africanist community. You have Pan-African nationalists, which is what I am. That's the Garvey set. But you also have the Pan-African socialists. That would be more of the Stokely Carmichael, who's a hero of mine. But nonetheless, he was a socialist, as was W.E.B. Du Bois. What's the difference between the socialists and the nationalists? Real simple. Socialism grows out of Marxism, okay, the Communist Manifesto, that says racism was created by capitalists so they could get rich off of blacks. In other words, to get paid, we came up with a whole bunch of lies about black people to justify their enslavement. So if you get rid of the capitalism and the greed, you eliminate the racism. We say that's total bullshit. We can say you can get rid of the capitalism all you want. There's no capitalism in China, but there's still racism. Russia is not capitalist. It's one of the most racist countries on earth. You can eliminate the economic system, envy all you want, but the social and psychological issue of racism will remain. Why? Because the primary function of racism is not greed. The primary function of racism is white genetic survival.
I just want to go back to something you
Sure.
said. And I'm not married to a white woman, so I don't take anything offensive. But see, the problem I have is, this is the thing. A lot of black people live in the hood, right?
Yes, sir.
Live in the hood. I live in the Queens Village. My zone school was PS 34. Andrew Jackson, the first school in the country to have
Andrew
metal
Jackson.
detectors. Andrew Jackson. The first school
He
in
was one of the
country.
greatest racists of all time.
Andrew Jackson.
Y'all gonna have to
is
change that name.
a school in Queens. The first school to have metal detectors.
Yeah, change it to Michael Jackson.
At first school level. That's the one LL Cool J is sitting outside on one of his album covers. So
Okay.
what most parents did is they worked very hard and try to put you in the Catholic school, right?
Okay.
Put me in the Catholic school. Now I'm in the school with all Haitians because it was all Haitians in Queens Village. I can tell you every Haitian curse out there.
Wow.
Kakashin, fukaka, what all that. But then, parents save money, put you in a Catholic school, high school. Problem is, it's probably 7 black people in each class, right?
Okay.
In freshman year, sophomore, junior year. So
Compared to how many Haitians or white?
no, just 7 black people. That's everything.
Okay.
Everything in high school.
Gotcha.
So the people that you fall in love with and that you talk to might necessarily not be
A black person.
True.
So does that at that age of 16 and 17 when you're dating, you're not thinking, oh my gosh, I got to get me a black person. You're thinking, I like this person because she's nice to me.
So you think, but at 16 and 17, your core values about race, racism, your people's position in the American social structure have already been formed. Even white research envy says that by the age of 4, this is coming from America's universities, by the age of 4, a child in America not only knows what race is, okay, not thoroughly, but superficially, they have a firm understanding of race and also the level of respect and status that their race is given within the larger social structure. This is coming from America's university. So at 4, your child knows that I'm black and black people don't get respect. A white child knows that I'm white
See,
and my people are already given.
I kind of disagree with
If
that.
you
a little
disagree,
bit because
then you're going to have to explain away the Dow study. Explain away the Dow study. We can go and get 25 black girls and 25 white girls from the schools right here in New York City and give them the black dials, the same Kenneth Clark dial experiment that was done 60 years ago for the Brown versus Board decision and say which one is ugly, which one is attractive, and
remember
which
that.
one would you rather be.
But don't you think that's conditioning too? You're not going to instill that in your kids. You're going to teach your kids.
You don't
that
have to.
black
The
is
society
beautiful.
will do it.
So you think society can brainwash your kids better than you?
Are you kidding me? We are living in the era of social network. This is the millennial
I
generation.
think in certain experiences, in certain instances, you
Yes!
can. Me and you, I don't think so because we're too much in our kids' life. So you're telling me, right? If my son, my black son, right,
Yes.
brings home a white girl because
How old is he?
not for nothing, he's 13.
Yes.
Not for nothing, we live in an area that is predominantly white.
Okay.
Reason why? Better school system, better education.
I got you.
A lot safer. So if he brings home a white girl, I should be like, son,
We need to
shouldn't-
have a
you
conversation.
shouldn't date her. You should date a black person.
Yes,
Black
sir.
woman.
Yes, sir.
I don't agree with that. See,
And let me
Young.
tell you
Wait till
why.
he get older and go to
But let me-
college.
but let me
he
say-
like mayonnaise now, but when he go to that HBCU and see that
No,
soul food,
but you-
let him experience what he likes.
but
I don't
envy-
wanna be the person that says you could do this.
No,
If
you
want
have to
marry
be
a
the
white-
person because you have to teach your son loyalty to his community.
Mm.
European Jews do it. Arabs do it, Chinese do it. We're the only people who feel anxious and ambivalent about telling our black boys that you better love and marry a black woman. And you know why we feel ambivalent? Because all of us have been conditioned by church envy to be colorblind. We're constantly told over and over again that it is wrong to be for yourself before you are for anyone else. And that's why Africans are dead last.
I don't agree.
It's nothing wrong with being loyal to yourself.
There's nothing wrong with being loyal to yourself, but
Yes,
it's
sir.
also who you love. I can't tell my son who he connects with better.
Can that white woman ever understand your son's struggle?
Fuck no.
Thank you. So why would you want him to spend the rest of his life with a woman who can never understand how he feels when the New York City Police Department pulls him over?
Dr. Umar,
You
better-
need a woman who can feel you. And the only woman on earth who can understand the black man is the black woman. And that's why I cannot respect a black man who is not committed to a black woman. That's the greatest symbol of pride in self.
I agree with you, but I do think people, fall in love with who they fall in love with. But
But love is a function of priorities and values.
yes, and you better never get caught with a white woman. Ever. you can't even glance at a white woman.
Now, since we're on the topic of family,
Go ahead.
there's a rumor that has to be dispelled. I'm hearing black people going around saying that slavery destroyed the black family. Nothing could be further from the truth. Slavery didn't destroy the black family. Do you know that we were still getting married through slavery? Jumping the broom in secret, even under punishment of death. We were married during Reconstruction. We were married during civil rights. When do you begin to see the rise of the single-parented black female household? 1970. After they killed Dr. King, the United States government said we must neutralize the black power base. And they determined that the black power base was the black family. It was independent black skilled men and women who financed King, financed Mr. Garvey, financed Mr. Muhammad, financed SNCC and CORE, the Freedom Riders and the sit-in movement. So they said, if we want to crush the black struggle, we got to crush the black family. So guess what they did in 1970? King dies in 68. In 1970, they came into the black communities and deindustrialized our city centers. In 1970, they started shutting down the factories. Remember, up until the 50s and 60s, you didn't need a college degree to get a decent job. Many of us got grandparents who worked in factories their whole life and lived better lives than we're living now with 2 and 3 degrees. They could work in their same neighborhood, and everybody worked for the factory. Good retirement, pension, benefits, medical. They started shutting down the factories in 1970, and then they went into the high schools and did what? Started deindustrializing the inner city high schools. Up until 1970, you could graduate from almost any school in New York certified as a plumber, certified as an electrician, certified as a carpenter, auto body, brick mason, a welder. They took all those programs out. These are the skills that pays the bills, gentlemen. As long as you have a skill, you can always feed your family. But if all you got is college degrees, you might end up in an unemployment line. Why? Because the skills that we learn in college are not necessarily marketable to other black people. I'm a psychologist. Ain't too many black people running around looking for a psychologist to reveal all the skeletons in their closet.
Yeah, you'd rather talk to a white
Exactly.
person.
So they started sending us to college instead of teaching us how to work with our hands. That was the 70s. That was the economic castration of the black male. Now let's go to 1980. The CIA comes in, cocaine import agency. They drop off crack. So now the unemployed black man who has always been a breadwinner, Envy, even in slavery, we were always the breadwinner up until 1970. Now the crack comes. You got a decision. I can sell this crack and try to put some food on the table, or I can smoke it to deal with the fact that I'm no longer economically relevant to the black woman.
Deal with that
and let's
trauma.
be clear, the decade of the 70s was the decade of making the black man economically irrelevant to the black woman. We're the only man in America who is out-earned and out-educated by our mates. No other woman in America out-earns and out-educates their mates. And this is not the black woman's problem. I want to be clear. This was systematically done to make us irrelevant to our families. Then the 1990s come, Bill Clinton crime bill, 3 strikes and you out. Mandatory minimum wages, the Bill Clinton crime bill. Now all those unemployed black men who got caught smoking crack or selling crack now being sent off to jail. And then they also give us the ADHD, so now we could dope the kids up with the same medicine that sent the father to jail. Then the year 2000 come, George Bush hits us with the what? Faith-based initiative. He finds a loophole in federal law that allows you to finance churches. So now the mega churches and the medium-sized churches in the black community, Charlemagne, are being financed by the government. You think it's a coincidence, Envy, that you don't see no major churches involved in the miseducation movement? No major churches involved in the mass incarceration movement?
Black
No
Lives
major
Matter.
churches involved in police genocide?
Yeah.
No major churches involved in poverty? Where is the black church in 2017 when it comes to black people issues? They're missing in action because they're being paid by the government to stay out of the struggle. And that's why it's called faith-based initiative. Your pastor is the new FBI agent.
Wow. Well, where you gonna tell me you gonna be tonight again?
Oh man, Dr. Umar.
Brown Memorial Baptist Church, Brooklyn, New York City. Doors open up at 4. Come on out. All children are free. All elders are free. We're going to talk about miseducation, male-female relationships, which I might want to touch on for a quick minute. We're going to talk about the upcoming Frederick Douglass Marcus Garvey Academy. I'm still building that school. And there's a school in South Carolina I just saw the day before yesterday that I might grab.
Okay. I'll help
Okay.
you out with that.
Yes, sir.
Nah,
Yes, sir.
I'm
So
serious. Where's it at?
I'm going to tell you off air.
All right. I'll help you out with that. I do have one quick question
Sure,
you can answer in
sure.
less than a minute or two.
Sure.
We had brother Dr. Wesley Muhammad up here.
Yes, sir.
And he spoke on, I don't want to misquote him, but he said that going to school to get an African studies degree is a waste of time. He was like, why spend that money when you could just learn that stuff on your own? He said you shouldn't go to school, spend $80,000 to get a degree in African
Yes,
studies.
which is a premise I've articulated several times.
Okay.
I would largely agree with that because I'm one of the first to say that. And that can be true because when you go to college, hearkening back to my previous comment, I wouldn't send a child to college in 2017 unless they can answer 3 questions or their parents can. Question number one. For example, Envy has a young son growing up. Number one, did you raise your son with the discipline to finish at Hampton, Howard, or Morehouse without you being in the same house with him?
Absolutely.
One of the biggest mistakes we make, we don't raise our kids with discipline, the ability to do what needs to be done when it has to be done, whether you like it or not. If you didn't raise that child with discipline, why are you investing $30,000 a year in a child you know ain't got the discipline to finish?
Absolutely.
Second question, is your son majoring in a subject that is economically relevant to the society? So if you get a PhD in African American studies, I'm not against it, but you better have a plan for how you're going to be able to use your degree to earn a decent living so you can pay back all that student loan debt that we've been accruing over the past 4 or 5 years. And then number three, how is your chosen profession going to benefit the black struggle in any way, shape, or form? The child or parent has to answer those three questions for me. Because remember, gentlemen, we got over 2 million African Americans with master's and doctorate degrees unemployed in the United States right now in the soup kitchen. I'm getting the emails from lawyers, Envy. Dr. Johnson, I'm a lawyer and I can't find a job. A lawyer?
What?
A black attorney? And black attorneys are small compared to the attorneys of other cultures.
But you know what? That's when we as people need to start employing them. You know,
Our
we
own.
need to.
Absolutely.
start
That's why we
employing
need the
our own,
banks.
You know, that's why we need to start employing our own.
Yes.
Stop looking for other lawyers to help, but we have to have trust and hopefully our lawyers can take care of it. I mean, I have 2 African American attorneys, but no matter what I do, I have 2 of everything. I have to have one lawyer.
You have to
watching over
double
the
up.
other
Yes,
lawyer,
sir.
because I have to make sure there's no mistakes. But
Yes, sir.
we have to start employing our own.
And that's why the bank has to circumvent the church for the most important institution in
Black
our
bank.
community, a black bank. If you notice white communities, the bank comes in, and then before you know it, they got the school, the hospital, the supermarket,
Absolutely.
the manufacturing industry. The bank is the center of the white community, not the church. In the black community, it's the church. And why do I have an issue with that? It has nothing to do with religion. It's politics. The church takes from us, but it doesn't give back. It's not an economic recycling engine.
I agree.
We give the black church $14 million every Sunday, Charlamagne. $14 million envy every Sunday. If you're giving the black church $14 million nationally every Sunday, how do you explain those schools? How do you explain those jobs? How do you explain those hospitals? That type of money, black America is the richest black nation on earth. There's only 9 nations above us. We're number 10. And all the other nations, none of them are black. So we're the only African population that has the ability to save itself.
We all we need.
But we
We
choose
gotta
not to
save
do
it.
it.
All right.
Dr. Umar Johnson.
Yes, sir.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, my
as-
brother.
Very, very powerful talk by Dr. Umar Johnson. We have been brainwashed as African people, and our kids also, to eat themselves, to degrade ourselves in everything that we are doing. We need to come together as black people and wake up to this foolishness that is taking place worldwide. Unity is power. So we need to spread that among ourselves. Teach our kids to love themselves. Teach our kids the struggle that we have been through, because so much black youths don't know the struggle that we have been through. This is the reason why they hate themselves. And they are trying to change it up so much that as they meet a little white flesh, them got married, get child, change everything. So we need to teach the youths them the roots of the culture and where we're coming from. That's a number 1 priority that we should make mandate in our life. So my people, let me know what you think about this. How we can empower our community as Africans. And you know, it's a Black Power movement, so definitely drop a like and subscribe and share to a friend or a family so they can be a part of the movement. Now my people, I'll catch you in the next one. Irie.